Hey, what's up everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so a little bit of basketball talk. Not sure where I want to go with this, to be honest with you. I did watch the Minnesota and OKC game yesterday, but honestly, it wasn't a whole lot to talk about. Minnesota is not really able to keep up with OKC, and it shows at this point. So my prediction, I'm not very confident. I said OKC in 7. I do think OKC is going to win the series probably a little sooner than that, if the Minnesota Timberwolves don't get it together and find a way to compete with this team. And so I haven't seen anything through 2 games that makes me think that's about to happen. And it just is what it is. So I don't really have much to say about that. I don't want to break down the numbers. I was disappointed. You can't, and it's the nature of the sport. But I think probably most of America who watch all these playoff games and these conference finals will tell you that you can't have the game that we just had between the Pacers and the Knicks and then follow it up with what we saw yesterday from Minnesota and OKC. It's an extreme letdown, like a drastic letdown. And so, congrats once again to Shea for getting the MVP. They're doing away with a team that it seems like they're much better than. That's what it looks like right now. Maybe Minnesota, when it shifts back tomorrow to their building, can find a way to get back into this series. But right now, it looks like they're about to get the broom. It looks like they're about to get the broom. So that's what it looks like to me through 2 games. Indy and New York play game 2 tonight. I'm of the mindset that Stephen A. Smith is in. The Knicks cannot afford to go down 0-2 against this Indy team. Not the way the Indy's been playing this postseason. This is a absolute must-win for the New York Knicks. If you lose both games at home, I think you lose this series. You may find a way to stretch it by winning a game or 2 in Indy, but you can't give them a 2-game head start and full-fledged home court advantage and expect the series is gonna work out for you. And trying to win basically 4 out of 5 games or whatever it would be after dropping 2 straight, that's tough, man, to say the least, especially when a team appears to have your number. So I am of the mindset that the Pacers are also in a must-win situation, in the sense that if you win this game, you most likely win the series. If you lose this game, what gets reminded to all of us is that you were the worst team through 36 minutes of play in game 1. And then from there, whatever happens games 2, if it doesn't go your way, suddenly you look up and realize you're being outplayed. So I think this is an extremely important game for both basketball teams. And I'm encouraged by just the overall, hey, buddies, what's up? What's up? Hey. Just encouraged by the overall energy that was put out in game 1. And I think the environment's going to be fantastic in both buildings. But New York is doing this New York thing. So it's always good to see basketball at the Mecca. So that's about as much as I want to say about that. Can't wait for game 2. I will be watching. Rumor this morning, I don't know if the Laker Nation was just creating content for us. Because a lot of times that's what there is to do right now. You hear people making videos about certain players and they're, the option of maybe the Lakers going after these players. And, I don't usually click on the type of videos, but there was a name that they made a video on this morning on Onyeka Okongwu of the Hawks that made me watch the video. And I don't think it's realistic the Lakers get Onyeka Okongwu, but I sure would love to have him on this team. And I think that's what it really comes down to. I didn't have him on my list because I just didn't think he was realistic. Didn't even really cross my mind that Atlanta would get rid of him. And after watching the video this morning, I still don't feel like it's realistic that Atlanta get rid of him. It just doesn't make any sense. He's on a great contract. He's starting to break out as basically a star-level center. High fly. I don't know if I'd say he's a high fly act. Not overly skilled, but extremely productive. Rebounding the ball, good defensive player, can get his buckets under the rim, can even stretch the floor a little bit. So he's a really nice piece to have going forward. The age is great. I think he's no older than 24, 25 years old. Has ties to California. If I'm not mistaken, he played with one of the Ball brothers in high school. So Onyeka Okongwu, I'm sure, would love to be a Laker, but I don't think it's all that realistic that the Hawks would be inclined to move on from him, especially with their timeline. It don't make no sense to move on from him. So if the Lakers can find a way to get him off the Hawks, that would be a great thing. Obviously for a reasonable price. You don't want to trade away too much to get him, or what have you, but his contract is very favorable, and that's going to cost you based on the production he's expected to provide. So I would imagine the Hawks are going to ask for Austin Reeves. One great contract, productive player for another great contract, productive player. I don't think the Lakers would be inclined to do that. But, you know, I would love to have Onyeka Okongwu at a trade value that would make my team happy. But, you know, I don't think that's realistic, y'all. I think a lot of things can be you can psych yourself into believing things can happen, especially based on the Luka trade. Now you really don't think you'd be surprised to see really anything at this point. So that's the hope there. We're just in a different world after the Luka trade. The stuff that you said, hell no, they ain't never gonna happen. Now you just say, well, it's unrealistic. Doesn't necessarily mean that it ain't gonna happen. So that's that. Another thought that comes to mind for me is the report that I saw this morning. Not sure how credible it was, since I made that mistake with the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander MVP statement where I told you he had won MVP 2 days before it was announced, because I saw the bad post. I'm going to tell you, I'm not sure about this post either. But I read something this morning saying that the Bucks met with Giannis, and Giannis did not request a trade. He did not. If anything, he expressed patience and wanting a desire to be with the Bucks. And, you know, that patience has proven to be successful for him in that situation, because he put pressure on them to do something. They did something. He won a championship. So it's hard to tell a guy who's been in his boat before that, you know, this time he shouldn't take that same chance. But that's exactly what I'm going to tell him. The Bucks situation financially is a little different than what it was when you last told them, hey, go get me something, and they did, and it worked. They went and got Dame, and Dame is not going to be worth half of what it is they paid to get him, and they can't get him healthy, in my opinion, in time to make any sense for your short timeline or win now timeline. So essentially what you're about to do is the same thing Dame did with Portland. You're about to stay in a situation that cannot win because you want to be a lifer there, only to likely find yourself getting traded away when it makes most sense for the franchise. To be honest with you, it may make the most sense for the franchise right now, given the type of hold they have on their situation. Now, granted, Giannis is they call him the Greek freak for a reason. You ain't going to find guys like this very often. So one may make a very, very compelling argument against that they should keep Giannis at all costs, because you ain't going to get nobody like that ever again, especially in no damn Milwaukee. So I don't blame the Milwaukee Bucks for saying forget a timeline. We're just going to hold on to Giannis because literally it's Giannis. Man, he actually wants to be here, so why the hell would I trade him away? If he don't mind losing, why the hell would I move him? That makes sense to me too, because a Bucks rebuild is not going to involve anything great like that. Let's just be honest. That's not happening. So for in their very unique situation, I think it's reasonable to think that they probably won't reset their situation. They will just continue to be a mediocre team with Giannis attached to it until he realizes he can't win there and forces his way out of there. And so that's what I think is about to happen. I think he's going to stay there. I don't think anybody's going to have the guts to opt into a rebuild, moving on from Giannis Antetokounmpo. If he wasn't drafted there, I think it would be a little more likely they might be inclined to do that. But the fact that he's a lifer for the Bucks, I don't think that anybody in Milwaukee is going to actually move him unless he wants out. Now, they may not be able to build nothing because of their situation, and what they have may not be worth much, but what can you do? You know what I mean? It's Giannis, man. So I don't envy that situation. I don't envy that at all. I don't think they can win anything. I think they are going to it gets worse from here. Brook Lopez is probably about to bounce. Bobby Portis a little bit older. Dame starting the season with the Achilles tear at like 33 years old or whatever he is. That's a terrible situation. Some of their young players aren't really all that developed, and you got a coach that doesn't really like using young players that much. Nothing on that team is really all that exciting. They had A.J. Johnson, a nice player, but they traded him away in his rookie season after drafting him prematurely in the first round when he's supposed to go in the second round. They traded him to Washington for nothing. It's just, they've made terrible decisions. Terrible decisions as a franchise. I do like the acquisition of, can't think of the young fella's name from the Rockets. The guy had that domestic situation that ultimately ended in turmoil for his career. He ended up going to the Clippers and ended up with the Bucks in the trade. I can't remember what his name is right now. Porter Jr. I like his acquisition. He looks pretty good. A guy I mentioned a few times, Ryan Rollins, is somebody I think has some upside. Not too much, but he's okay. There's a few players on that team that, you know, upside's pretty solid. Kyle Kuzma, picking him up, he might have some retrade value. But as far as like them moving forward, I don't think it gets much better from here. I really don't. They're going to need some free agency help, and they really don't have the money to pay anybody. So it's kind of going to be hopes of maybe replacing Brook Lopez with another center that's similar, who, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. So the best thing for the Bucks, if they're serious about being able to build something that can win a championship, is likely to trade Giannis for a bunch of stuff that can reset their situation and starting over and hoping through the draft they can get a lot of good stuff. But will any of that good stuff be Giannis? Hell no. Will any of that good stuff desire to be in Milwaukee as much as Giannis? Not likely. You know, having a passion for Milwaukee is not something that most people are going to have unless they're from there or had the path that Giannis has had there. So it's like, you can try trading everything around Giannis and hoping for the best, but the stuff that you have that you gave the most money to is aging and Dame Lillard, which was just ill-advised when they did it. It didn't work out, and now his value is half of what it's worth, and untradeable because of the Achilles injury and his age. So it's like, you ain't getting nothing for Dame. Now, I think trying to move Dame's contract for diversified pieces, if at all possible, even if they're not all that lucrative, might be a good thing. Trying to see if you can attract a expiring contract in some type of Dame trade, you know. But if I'm anybody worth my salt looking at that Dame contract, I'm gonna ask for future picks just to get it off your hands. I'm not going to offer any picks or anything that's going to help you reset your situation. You're going to need a salary dump, and you're going to have to make it worth somebody's while. So it may be cheaper to keep Dame and just see what his ceiling could be when he comes back from the injury as an elite shooter or whatever. But defensively, he's already someone that's a negative, severe negative. And so it's just, it should have never been done. That should have never been done. Trading for Dame Lillard was a very, very poor decision. And it's ultimately why the best bet for having a healthy franchise is probably moving the most valuable piece they have for everything they can get. And so, you know, certain things just shouldn't be done, man. I know Giannis probably wanted Dame on the team, but you got to tell Giannis what the risk is when bringing Dame to the team. I don't know that they did a great job of painting out the picture of the worst case scenario and how it could potentially leave them in a position where they had to move him. That's equally as important as getting a guy what he wants, is letting him know why he shouldn't want it and why it's irresponsible for him to demand that you do it. If you're not responsible enough to paint that picture for him, then it's your fault when it goes to crap, even though you did it for him. And that's absolutely exactly what Milwaukee failed at. They didn't let Giannis understand just how bad this could have gotten for wanting Dame on the roster at that price, at that age, and with the rest of those contracts on the books next to him. And so, would he have been pleased with them keeping Jrue Holiday if he knew it would be the difference in this way? I'm sure he would have been happy to keep Jrue Holiday. But the idea of Dame was far greater than the reality of Dame. And now that they got Dollar in place, they can't retrade him. And so I think it's, you know, you look at Boston and you ask Boston, can we get Jrue back? That's what I'm doing if I'm in Milwaukee. Can we get Jrue back? What's it going to cost to get Jrue back? Because I know they're ready to do some overhauling with their roster, especially since Jason Tatum went down with the same injury. He's likely out for next season entirely, if you ask me. He and Dame are probably out for the season. Because for Dame, he's so old that the recovery might be a little murky coming back from Achilles. And then, you know, Jason means so much to the Celtics that they would be wise to give him the whole season off just to recover from that injury. They would be wise for that, and I think that's exactly what they're going to do. And they're going to shave some of that win now stuff off of the team, as to which that's what new ownership said they wanted to do before Jason Tatum went down. They were going to move some stuff to get some money off the books. So I don't know what the Boston Celtics are going to look like going forward, but I would imagine Jason Tatum's going to be a part of it going forward. Everything else could potentially be on the move. So the Bucks, can you get Drew back? That's what I would be wanting to do. Now, is Drew going to be the answer to your problems? Hell nah. He's aging too. That's the problem. But that's probably what I'd be trying to do. So yeah, man, that's really what I gotta say. I don't envy any of these teams, man. As a Laker fan, we got the deal of a lifetime, the stimulus package of a lifetime. Getting Luka the Don in our situation was a heaven sent. We're just very happy about that. And we'll talk more about my team and stuff like that as we go forward. But if the Indy game is worth reacting to, I'll probably react to it tomorrow like I've been doing the day after each of these games. But for now, that's pretty much what I gotta say. My name is BDR44. I'm out.